Your summer starts now with Memorial Day deals at the Home Depot. It's time to fire up summer cookouts with the Next Grill 4-burner gas grill on special buy for only $199. And entertain all season with the Hampton Bay West Grove 7-piece outdoor dining set for only $499. This Memorial Day, get low prices guaranteed at the Home Depot. While supplies last, price and valid May 14th through May 27th. U.S. only, exclusions apply. See homedepot.com/price match for details.
Whatever your thing, it could be anything. Canva helps you make that thing a thing. Canva is a simple online tool thing. It's a way to design with our magic AI tool things. You can social media your thing, generate images or videos of your thing, make decks for presentations to show your thing. Whatever needs to be done for your thing, Canva can make it an even better and bigger thing. Canva, the thing that makes anything a thing.
Hello and welcome to the program, UFO Warning. In this episode, we're talking about Missouri Congressman says, show me. That's correct. Missouri Congressman says, show me. Now, you may be familiar with the slogan of Missouri, which is the show me state. And it turns out Representative Eric Burlison, it's Burlison, is telling MIT's Lincoln Labs, show me. And this is important because this is a situation where the government has been allegedly shifting off UFO files into private corporations where they are immune to FOIA requests. We've talked about this a lot on the show and how much this is hurting any chances of disclosure. Now, I found this first article over on thehill.com. It says, as lawmakers continue to pursue transparency regarding alleged secret UFO programs operated by the Pentagon, one Republican is now pursuing private contractors. Now, I think this is actually the holy grail right here. And I think that Representative Eric Burlison is onto this. Burlison, a Republican from Missouri, announced Friday on social platform X that he sent a letter to MIT Lincoln Labs regarding a flying saucer talk from 1952. I sent a letter to MIT Lincoln Labs asking for a classified 1952 briefing video referenced as a flying saucer talk. Their attorneys wrote back fast. He wrote, they'll comply within 30 days. Why would it even take 30 days? And why is a flying saucer talk from 1952 classified? Congressional letters carry weight. We're going to keep sending them, Burlison added. Whistleblower David Grusch, whose testimony regarding alleged secret retrieval programs for UFOs or unidentified anomalous phenomena kicked off a series of congressional hearings, has stated private contractors are being used to make it more difficult for lawmakers to obtain information on certain programs. Well, sure, they're playing a shell game. Instead of keeping their reports on file with themselves, they can just ship these off to some government programmer, some government contractor who, for all we know, might work in the same building. If you really want to hide something from Congress, you don't put it in a government file cabinet. You hand it to a private contractor, Burlison wrote in a Thursday in a post online. That's why my investigation is following the trail into Rand, Mitri, Aerospace Corp., MIT Lincoln Labs, and the Northrop Grummans of the world. It's a dangerous thing when corporations take on the role of government. If it goes far enough, you can end up with something called fascism, and this is a very, very bad thing. We see this with so many things where we're told that if we privatize a government service, it'll be better, it'll be cheaper, blah, blah, blah. So many times what we find out with is, well, let me get my soapbox here, but so many times what we find out with is people pay into a government system for years and years and years, like Medicare, and then they get to be 65, 75 years old, and they find out that the system they've paid into has been taken over by a private corporation that's there to extract as much profit as possible. This is not a good situation. Same thing with this UFO information. All these reports, a lot of them were made by well-meaning people, by patriots in the military. They were meant to be looked at by people in government whose main interest was caring for the people of the United States. But what happens is this information, and if we're talking about free energy, if we're talking about things like time travel or super weapons, when this information gets just put into the hands of people in private companies, all of a sudden it's no longer the interest of humanity that's the driving force, but it's the seeking of profits that are the driving force. So what we have here is really a very dangerous, very scary situation that has developed, and I think it's right for Eric Burlison, Representative Eric Burlison, to call this out. It's this old thing of socialize the cost, privatize the profits. We've seen this happen pretty much every economic recession we enter into. A bunch of private companies go out, make bad loans, make bad financial decisions, like the banks, and then society is expected to bail them out, while the media hails the people that lost all that money as financial geniuses. Same thing here. We socialize the cost of collecting all of this UFO data. We socialize the cost of recovering down craft or reverse engineering this stuff. And then we privatize the profits. It's the same scam that we see being run through every element of society. And I have to tell you, it sucks. It sucks for us, because the free energy, if they discover it, should be used to serve humanity, not a private corporation or some made-up corporation. Now it goes on, it says, MIT Laboratories is one of the oldest federally funded research development centers in the country, founded in 1951 to build the SAGE, or SAGE Air Defense Network. Here you go again. We have taxpayer funding being funneled into a private entity. Where's the accountability? Where is the fiduciary duty of the people at MIT Lincoln Laboratory? Is it with their own organization, or is it with the taxpayers of the United States? I think this is one of the most insidious corporate creations imaginable, when you take federal money and you build up a quasi-private company that works hand in hand with the government, to the point where you don't know which one is the government and which one is a private entity. This is the very definition of fascism. This is terrible. Fascism's not what so many of these misguided folks are talking about in the streets. Fascism is a real thing. It's a deep state at its worst. Wow, this is dangerous, dangerous stuff. And anybody who loves liberty should be concerned about this. If you go back and look at history, the founding fathers did not even want a corporation to have a lifespan past 99 years. They understood the danger of letting corporations continue on forever. They had already had experience with the Hudson Bay Company and the Dutch East India Company. They saw how the Hudson Bay Company had monopolized the fur trade in North America. They saw how the Dutch East Indies Company had monopolized trade in the Far East at the expense of everybody else. And they said, if you let these companies go on forever, they will own everything in your country and your children will be left with nothing. But what did our Supreme Court do in their infinite wisdom? Well, they said that a corporation has all the rights and privileges of a human being. But what do you do to a corporation when it murders somebody? What do you do to a corporation when it steals from somebody? They, in essence, created a psychopathic parasite to feed off the rest of us. The founding fathers in no way wanted this. It's simple to see this is not what they had in mind. So you've taken this model, socialize the cost, privatize the profits, and you applied it to UFO recovery, UFO information, UFO reports, all of this stuff. You vacuum it up from free from the American public, who think that they're being helpful by storing this stuff in a government database somewhere, and then you hand it off to a private or semi-private government-funded corporation who is, in effect, allowed to monetize it, exploit people with it, and then call us conspiracy theorists. It is the most awful system you could imagine, in my opinion. Goes on, it says, FFRDCs are a special class of government contractors that work on long-term projects and have access to classified information as well as proprietary information that for-profit contractors are legally barred from seeing. Well, how convenient. Since the for-profit contractors are legally barred to see it, let's just make a so-called non-profit contractor, and then they can see it. This is a blight upon society. They're doing this with everything from the mental health services that we give to the poor, desperate, disabled people among us that used to be provided by government-run facilities. Somebody came along and said, oh, we can do this better. We're a nonprofit. But every time you look these people up, you find out the person in charge of the nonprofit is making 3 or 4 times as much money as a normal working class Joe living in a big house, sucking off the taxpayer teat. And the same model is being translated into this UFO field. Frankly, I find it disgusting. Over time, the facility has been at the center of U.S. defense research and development, from ballistic missile defense to electronic warfare work that is rarely seen by the public. The MIT Lincoln Laboratory, along with others including Mitra, Rand, IDA, the Aerospace Corporation, JPL, and Sandia, was designed in the 1940s and 50s to retain wartime scientific capability outside the civil service. In the 1940s, they took the power to make war and gave that to private companies. This is what Eisenhower was warning you about. If they're making money off of war, they want a perpetual state of war. That structure has led to a network of private nonprofits with classified access that ordinary contractors do not have, and that also operate one legal step removed from the executive branch. So they've set up an entire corporate structure that is not accountable to the President of the United States. This is the very definition of the deep state. And then I have these poor, lost souls that want to come online and criticize me for being a conspiracy theorist. The conspiracy is right in front of you. Open your eyes. Grusch alleged in his testimony before Congress that private contractors are carrying out UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs to shield them from congressional oversight. If they can, they are, believe it. That has been echoed by lawmakers, including Representative Tim Burchett, Republican Tennessee, one of the leading voices around UFO disclosure, who has accused the Department of Defense of siloing information to avoid questions from Congress. Quote, the federal government learned to do this during the Second World War, Burchett said. You have to imagine Oak Ridge National Laboratory, the Manhattan Project, thousands of people working on the atomic bomb, and less than 12 knew what it was. Yeah, when people tell you that humans are not capable of keeping a grand conspiracy, I beg to differ. For lawmakers, the question is not just one of potential UFO programs, but about where taxpayer money is being spent. The Pentagon has denied the existence of UFO retrieval or reverse engineering programs and has stated there is no reason to believe UAP sightings are extraterrestrial nature. President Trump directed his administration earlier this year to release its files related to UAPs. Wow. I think that's actually a pretty good article, and I'm really satisfied that Representative Burlison is calling these guys out the way he is. There is a quick Twitter mention over here on Representative Burlison's feed from 31 Atlas Updates. It says, Eric Burlison says MIT Lincoln Labs has agreed to comply within 30 days after he requested a classified 1952 flying saucer talk briefing video. Burlison claims Congress is now investigating whether private defense contractors were used to hide alleged UFO UAP programs from lawmakers and the public. Congressional letters carry weight. We're going to keep sending them. I would like to think that's true. Maybe it'll spur somebody to act a little bit where we can learn a little bit more. I think the main thing to take away from this is that Eric Burlison is bringing this out to the normies, that the UFO cover-up's not just with the U.S. government, it's with these government contractors. Now, I did ask AI to give us a little bit of background on what this MIT Lincoln Labs is all about. It says MIT Lincoln Laboratory is a federally funded research and development center, that's FFRDC, operated by Massachusetts Institute of Technology for the U.S. government, primarily the Department of Defense. Its main purpose is to develop advanced technologies for national security, especially technologies that are too experimental, risky, or technically difficult for private industry or the military to develop alone. Sounds like another one of these In-Q-Tel things where the government goes in, like with In-Q-Tel, the CIA sets up a private company to vacuum up new technology. You have to wonder what they have hidden away in these laboratories somewhere that we aren't allowed to have. It says, think of it as a hybrid between a top engineering research lab, a military technology incubator, and a prototype development center. Unlike universities that mostly publish academic papers, Lincoln Lab builds working systems, radars, satellites, AI systems, communication networks, missile defense technology or cybersecurity tools, and surveillance systems, then transfers those technologies to the military or industry for deployment. These guys are hand in glove with the U.S. government. They should be subject to FOIA requests. They are essentially just a government contractor in name only. They look more like government employees to me. What MIT Lincoln Laboratory actually does, national defense technology. The laboratory's core mission is protecting the United States through advanced technology. Major areas include missile defense. They design advanced radar systems, missile tracking algorithms, early warning systems, and systems that help detect hypersonic or ballistic missiles. Lincoln Lab has long been involved with U.S. missile defense programs, the Reagan test site, and space tracking radar systems. They build systems that track satellites, identify space debris, monitor foreign spacecraft, and support U.S. Space Force operations. One famous system is the Haystack Ultra-Wideband Satellite Imaging Radar, or HUSIR, which is considered one of the world's most powerful long-range imaging radars. Well, we know that they've been able to see, basically read the date on a coin from outer space with these satellites for probably 50 or 60 years. Secure military communications. Lincoln Lab develops encrypted communication systems, laser communication technology, advanced satellite communications, quantum communication concepts, and resilient battlefield networking systems. They helped achieve record-breaking laser communication between Earth and the Moon through NASA missions. Everything from Defense Department to lunar communication. Cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. The lab conducts research into cyber defense, read spying on you, machine learning, autonomous systems. Machine learning, that almost seems like a oxymoron to me. Does a machine really learn anything? Wouldn't it be a truer statement to say machine programming? Autonomous systems, data fusion, language processing, computer vision, and AI-assisted military decision systems. Well, unfortunately, the Department of War's come out and said that they're all in on making autonomous attack weapons. I think this is a bad idea. They also operate major supercomputing infrastructures for AI and defense analytics. Supercomputing infrastructure. Wouldn't you like to know what that involves? Air defense and radar. Radar is historically Lincoln Lab's biggest specialty. Well, wouldn't they be interested in these UFOs? Clear back to 1952, it seems. They pioneered many modern radar concepts back to World War II and the Cold War. Their work includes phased array radar, airborne surveillance, maritime tracking, drone detection, stealth detection research, and integrated air defense systems. What a leg up they would have gotten if they would have got one of these UFOs and been able to reverse engineer some of this stuff. Lincoln Labs was created in 1951 during intense fears of Soviet nuclear attack. They've always got to scare the living you-know-what out of you with something. Doesn't matter if it's global warming, a new ice age, nuclear holocaust, something they've got to use to keep the young generation in a perpetual state of fear. A flu virus, a wood tick, something, some of it more real than others. The U.S. government needed a way to detect incoming Soviet bombers, coordinate radar stations, and automate national air defense. The result was the SAGE system, semi-automatic ground environment. This became one of the most important military computing projects in history. SAGE linked radar stations across North America, used massive computers, tracked aircraft in real time, and helped direct interceptor aircraft automatically. The project helped pioneer digital networking, real-time computing, graphical computer displays, magnetic core memory, modems, and interactive computer interfaces. Many technologies later used in civilian computing evolved from this work. Yet when we had those 3 UFOs fly over North America a few years ago when Biden was president, we never could get a clear picture of what they were. We know that of the 4 things, one was a Chinese spy balloon, but the ones over Lake Huron, up in Alaska, and I believe in the one in Canada and Yukon, we never were told what these things were. Oh, they gave us some song and dance. Influence beyond the military. Although defense is its core mission, Lincoln Lab has created technologies that become part of everyday life. Examples include air traffic control. Lincoln Lab helped develop modern FAA radar systems, collision avoidance systems, runway safety systems, and weather radar technologies. Modern airline safety owes a lot to Lincoln Laboratory research. Semiconductor and laser technology. The lab played a major role in semiconductor laser development, fiber optic communications, infrared sensors, and advanced imaging systems. Here we go. Asteroid detection. Lincoln Lab created the Lincoln Near-Earth Asteroid Research. This program discovered over 100,000 asteroids and became one of the most successful asteroid detection efforts ever conducted. Why is it that we only hear about these things coming in a couple days before it happens, though? Seems like they know first. Organizational structure. MIT Lincoln Laboratory is funded mostly by the U.S. Department of Defense, managed by MIT, but separate from MIT's normal academic departments. It employs roughly 4,500 MIT employees and plus contractors and support staff. Most employees are physicists, engineers, mathematicians, computer science, AR researchers, and systems engineers. A large amount of work is classified. Yes, and compartmentalized. You can bet on that. Why Lincoln Labs is important. Lincoln Laboratory is considered one of the most influential defense technology organizations in U.S. history because it bridges academic and industry. Its specialty is taking cutting science and turning it into real-world operational systems quickly. Many U.S. defense technologies pass through Lincoln Lab before becoming operational. This is how they work, kids. Areas that attract public speculation. Because the lab works on advanced radar, space surveillance, classified aerospace systems, signal intelligence, and exotic sensor technology, it frequently appears in UFO discussions, black project speculation, and advanced aerospace rumors online. And maybe because they're having meetings about aliens clear back to 1952. I don't know. However, most public documented work involves conventional defense systems, advanced sensing technologies, and classified military R&D rather than confirmed extraterrestrial research. It says in simple terms, MIT Laboratory is essentially America's high-end military technology prototype laboratory, specializes in radar, AI, missile defense, space tracking, communications, cybersecurity, and advanced sensing systems, and has been deeply involved in U.S. national security technology since the beginning of the Cold War. Well, I would like to know who's doing background checks on all these people. Here again, you're taking what are very important national security issues regarding defense and the War Department, and you're putting them in the hands of private individuals. And then you're calling it a nonprofit. And then it takes a letter from a congressman to find out what they know about UFOs, like they're ever going to tell us. It's this muddying of the waters. This is the creation of at least the potential for the deep state right here. Government entities mixed with these quasi-semi-nonprofit organizations Who even knows where all the money goes at? You just create a black hole for this stuff to go into. And it becomes very simple to socialize the cost and privatize the profits. This is not the system the Founding Fathers had in mind. I just want to finish up with this idea of this MIT Lincoln Laboratory, the fact that they call this thing a nonprofit. I did ask AI, I said, how much money do they generate and where does it go? And he says, well, MIT Lincoln Laboratory is not a profit-generating company in the normal sense. Yeah, really, they're creating all this cool stuff, but there's no profits involved. Weird. It is a federally funded research and development center, FFRDC, they love those acronyms, meaning it operates primarily on U.S. government contracts rather than commercial sales. In other words, they just never leave the government teat, sucking that bottle from day one. Annual budget and revenue. MIT Lincoln Laboratory's annual operating budget is estimated at roughly $2 billion to $2.5 billion per year in recent years. So they can't even tell you how much money these guys get from the government. The vast majority comes in from the U.S. Department of Defense, U.S. Air Force, Missile Defense Agency, Intelligence Community, NASA, Department of Homeland Security, and other agencies. Everybody wants to get their finger in the pot, don't they? MIT itself reports Lincoln Laboratory as one of the largest federally funded research centers in the United States. Unlike a corporation, it does not issue stock. It does not distribute profits to shareholders, and it is not designed to maximize earnings. So it just goes on forever. Exactly the thing that the Founding Fathers warned you about. When you have a corporation that has no expiration date, you have created a construct of a psychopath. Why? Because it doesn't have feelings like you or I. It's simply this financial construct that its very DNA tells it must continue. It must replicate. It must go on. Its goal is to take over everything. Now, it finishes up, it says, where does the money come from? Most funding flows like this. Federal agencies. The government gives Lincoln Lab research contracts, development contracts, prototype system funding, and operational technology funding. Major sponsors include United States Department of Defense, United States Air Force, Missile Defense Agency, NASA, United States Space Force. These agencies pay the lab to invent systems, test technology, build prototypes, solve technical problems, and transfer working technologies to military programs. With zero oversight pretty much. Most of the money is spent on operating the laboratory itself. Oh boy. Employee salaries, number one. A huge percentage goes toward scientists, engineers, software developers, physicists, mathematicians, AI researchers, radar specialists, and security-cleared technical staff. Lincoln Lab employs around 4,000 to 5,000 people. Highly specialized defense engineers earn $120,000 to $250,000 plus annually, depending on clearance level and expertise. Yeah, I'm guessing it's probably a lot more than 120. Research infrastructure. Money also funds supercomputers, radar facilities, satellite testings, clean rooms, AI clusters, classified labs, semiconductor fabrication, and advanced sensor facilities. And it lists classified programs, prototype, and testing. Well, just a whole list of stuff they do, boy. Yeah, they're getting it out there. Why the government funds it so heavily? The U.S. government uses Lincoln Lab because it can tackle long-term, high-risk projects, work on classified systems, avoid some commercial pressures, and rapidly prototype advanced military technologies, and also park stuff there where it is immune to FOIA requests. This is exactly the thing we're talking about when we talk about the deep state. Literally, an organization that has been around now for, 75 years, immune from any kind of oversight by the executive branch. I guess other than the funding they get, but I would assume by now there's so many politicians tied up with this that the funding's not even a problem. We don't even know where the money's at. They don't have to tell us because it's considered a nonprofit. This is really something. And I have to say I'm behind Representative Burlison 100% when he says, show me. So we'll wait and see what happens. I think we are starting to peel back the layers of this onion a little bit. The problem seems the more we peel, the worse it smells. Until next time, this is UFO Warning. Over and out.